All right.
Christopher.
We're back.
My man. We are here.
I'm so excited.
I really am too.
I just stepped off of a combine into this recording studio.
Right into the room.
It's pretty exciting.
You were bean bining, as they say.
Bean bining.
Which, you're one of the few.
Yeah?
Not very many people running.
Well, that's probably not a good thing because they're not very good.
No?
The ones I'm doing must have died early because it is no bueno out there.
That sucks.
Yeah.
Is the moisture terrible?
No, moisture's perfect. I'm just watching dollar bills evaporate before my very eyes.
Not come into the combine?
Yeah. But I got a lot of later beans. I think they're going to be a lot better.
Right.
I think the later the bean, the better.
So did you plant these like normal time frame?
A little later than normal. But what happened is that dry spell over the summer.
Yeah.
They didn't make it past that to when it started raining in mid-August. So
that's not good.
Meh, it is what it is. They're not like, it's not like emergency crop insurance failure. It's just not great. Not good.
Not what you expected.
Right.
Did you think they were going to do better?
They've looked so good all year long, the beans.
Really?
Yeah, they really have. But no, I wasn't expecting. I mean, they were planted 2-3 weeks later than normal. And if you look at the chart, it says 2 weeks later than this date, it goes down by X amount of bushels every day. It's right on for that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, pretty much.
Huh. They have charts for that, huh?
Well, I mean, it's guidelines. Like every day past May 15th, you lose 1 bushel a day.
No kidding.
Off your yield. On an average year, obviously.
For that,
for
maturity
soybeans,
of beans.
They follow a yield curve. The later in the season, the lower the yield.
Even if you change
average.
Maturities?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Because, they mature by day length.
Right.
So they only have so much time to set pods. The issue with the beans out there that I'm commenting right now, like I said, they died early. They're very small.
Oh, so you're not getting any weight.
Yeah, I'm not getting substance.
Right. Nothing there.
Nothing there. That's been enough bean talk.
That's been my problem my whole life, too. Just not much here.
Not a lot of substance.
Not a whole lot of substance here. No
and yet
depth.
here you are, a celebrated podcast host.
Right.
Spouting substance.
Worldwide.
It's like the only thing that you ever had of substance
yeah.
is what we're doing in this podcast.
Right. I've had nothing.
But we've had no outlet for that substance previous.
None.
Because nobody
Zero.
cared.
I've kept it inside my entire life until I met you.
Oh, what a nice story.
You're welcome.
Next time you can bring me flowers.
As you tear me down and rip me apart, I give you compliments because I'm the bigger man.
Well, I don't know if you know this or not, but we got a big show this week.
We do. And
it's one we couldn't wait to record.
We couldn't. I couldn't anyways. I needed to talk to somebody about it.
Yeah.
The problem is that my wife wasn't a huge fan, so I couldn't really talk to her about it.
Yeah.
And what am I talking about?
Oh, the big topic this week is the Joker.
The Joker.
The Joker movie. We're going to do a review of our take on the Joker movie. And if we have time after that, we're going to go in depth onto some of our favorite portrayals of the Joker in all of media.
Yes.
And maybe also we'll give a not official ranking of some of our favorite Jokers.
I wasn't really thinking of it
it's not a top
as
10.
A ranking or because I don't want to do that.
Yeah. Well, we will do that someday.
Gosh,
when we have a little more time to really delve deep. If I'm going to do that, I want to reread and rewatch everything.
I just don't feel comfortable ranking them because
they're so different.
Yeah, but it's all the same person.
And that's the thing about the Joker. And that's what's made this movie possible is that there's been a million different iterations. Every author, every artist, every screenwriter, every director has put their own little spin on this character that's been around for 60 years.
Well, no, since 1941, Batman #1.
70, 80 years?
It actually came out April 25th, 1941, the first Batman, which is on my birthday.
Wow.
April 25th.
And so I mean, this character has never been consistently done one way.
So I just heard about two things. So I think it's Jeff Johns. Maybe Jeff Johns or Mark Millar. One of those two people has been writing a book called The Three Jokers.
Okay.
For quite a few years now. Mm-hmm. It was It's been like every single year it's been said that this book is going to be released. It's never been released.
Okay.
Supposedly he wrote it. I don't know what the problem is on releasing it, but it hasn't been released yet. His theory is that there's 3 different Jokers. And like one of them is, like the jester type Joker who's goofy and like the playing cards and whatnot. And then there's like the mob boss Joker that is just, he's not necessarily insane, but he's like the criminal mastermind that knows everything. And then there is the absolutely insane, chaotic Joker. Those are the 3 that he discusses in the book.
About right on.
Yeah, it is. It seems very...
And every portrayal kind of follows one of those paths.
Right.
Except for maybe one that we can discuss later that might bridge some of the different worlds.
Then Grant Morrison said that the way he looks at Joker is that it's always the same person, but he's insane, obviously, but he can change his brain, basically. Okay. He's like changing his brain on how he acts and reacts in the middle of stories. So when Grant Morrison did Batman and he did his iteration of Joker, like throughout the series, Joker literally changed in the middle of it. He was like one way. I think he was like the jokey type jester guy. And then in the middle of it, he completely switched personas and was the insane, chaotic, like unbelievable Joker that does like really heinous crimes and murders people. And it switched because he just literally switches it in his brain to do those things. So it's the same exact person. It's just his brain doing tricks on him.
So that was one before we did this. I wanted to go back and reread a bunch of the old stuff. I was interested to find I thought everything was on that DC Unlimited app.
It's not.
Not everything's on there.
No, it's not everything.
Because I really wanted to reread The Killing Joke, and it wasn't on there. Of course, I have the book. I just didn't want to dig it up. But I did reread a bunch. One that I have, and I've read several times, but not for years, is Grant Morrison's Arkham Asylum
yes.
book. And I remember liking it, but I don't remember his take on the Joker all that much about it. I remember the tone and the feel of the book. I love that book. But I don't really remember the Joker in it, so I wanted to reread it because I know that's one that a lot of people point to as one of their favorite iterations. So,
yes.
We're going to go into that more later, but I think we're going to start off right now by talking about the movie that just came out.
Right off the bat, this is going to be spoiler-ridden.
Yeah, this will be full of spoilers. This is going to be full of shocks.
Yes.
That I don't think that Jerry's going to see coming.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it now, too. But, yeah, it's going to be full of spoilers, so if you don't want to know about it, just wait until you see the movie and come back and listen to this part of it. Maybe later on in the podcast, you can listen to whatever we talk about, but first half, at least, most likely, is going to be about this movie.
So before we dive into our opinions, all right, let's address the elephant in the room. What's a Joker-related reference I can make instead of elephant? The giant clock? Was that the Joker? No, that was
no. Let's address the jester in the room.
Sure. The controversy.
It's all over the place. Everybody's heard about it.
This controversy is huge, and I think it honestly is what made the movie blow up as big as it did. I think right now, and I'm not going to look up the exact numbers because I don't have my computer in front of me, but I think it's on track to be the highest grossing R-rated movie of all time.
It already is.
It already is.
Yeah.
Massive box office. I know it made like over 200 million worldwide.
So it's 94 million domestic and 240 million worldwide.
That's insane for
it's unbelievable.
a Joker movie.
So, yeah, and I think Deadpool was the last movie. Deadpool 2, was it? Which one was PG-13?
Well, neither one. That was Once Upon
Okay,
a
there was a movie that came out. I can't remember what it was in the article I read. There was a movie that came out that was the top box office movie for October that came out that was PG-13, and it blew that out of the water and was rated R. Okay. So they're saying like this is like double the milestone because rated R movies just don't make that much money.
Right. So it's made all the money, and I think it's made that money on the back of the controversy. So the controversy is that This is a deep dive into psychological mental illness and how that people were concerned about how that relates to the situation going on in the world now with all these mass shooters. And will this inspire people or bring people to some kind of a rallying cry to go out and commit violence? After watching the movie, and I thought that was ridiculous to begin with. I just don't think that movies have that kind of effect on people, and the people that are going to do that are already clearly mentally insane.
Same with video games, across the board. I don't,
and you can't say across the board that there's nobody that's affected by it that way. But I don't think there probably is, and if there is, it's not worth censoring art.
Right. I don't think so either. Like the world we live in, but not necessarily the world, the country we live in. If you start censoring what comes out, why do we even have like freedom of speech then?
Right.
Or like a medium of art and entertainment at all if it's completely censored to what we see.
Right.
I feel like it's a fear-driven argument that in my opinion, is solely media based.
So today I listened to the Fat Man Beyond when they were talking about this issue. And Kevin Smith was basically saying, like, I think that it's just completely like overblown.
Yes.
Basically. And I agree with him on that. And after watching the movie, I probably would reinforce even more my idea that I don't think that is really something that this movie is going to do.
Right.
I just don't think it's going to be that kind of an inspiring rally cry for mentally ill people to go commit violence. I didn't get that from the movie. It just doesn't come off like that to me.
No, it doesn't come off to me either like that way. I just don't see it. It didn't make me want to shoot anybody, but then again, I don't think I'm mentally ill. Right. But there's, room for argument there.
Yeah. So without further ado, I mean, let's start with you. What did you think about the movie?
So overall opinion?
Overall opinion.
All right. Oh, I'm excited about this. Because again, Amy did not like it.
And we're not going to do a play-by-play of what happens through the movie. If you're listening to this, you've seen it.
Right. So. We're not going to break it down that deep. But Amy did not enjoy it. Yeah. She didn't like it at all because it was super depressing. And she was she had the mindset of a more like superhero-ish type movie.
Okay.
It was obviously it's not that. It is not a superhero movie.
So I had the opposite. Marley really, really enjoyed it. She liked it a lot. I think that she wasn't expecting it to be that, first off.
Yeah.
I feel like her expectations of what it was matched up with what it was for her going into it.
Yeah.
I did think it was interesting that she really wanted to see this movie. Like, her big thing was like,
surprised me a lot.
You cannot go see this movie without me. And she wanted to see it right away. So I think she totally knew what it was going to be. It satisfies that. And if you've seen the previews or even heard anything about it, at least on my perspective, it is what I thought it was. I didn't think it was going to be something else than what it ended up being. How about, what did you say?
No, that's exactly, I mean, from the trailers you see, it basically depicts what the movie's going to be, really.
Right.
I mean,
and then everybody talking, they're like, oh, it's like Taxi Driver. So I kind of had a good idea of going into it.
And it is.
It's definitely not like Taxi Driver. There's like a concerted attempt to try and be or
like
to
that.
Not necessarily overtake it or not necessarily copy it. But the
same tone,
people who wrote this, and Todd Phillips, I think, directed it. I don't know if he wrote it too.
Yeah.
Obviously, he had that in mind.
Right.
For the style of movie he wanted to make.
Yeah.
Like a deep, in-depth look into somebody breaking down into psychosis, basically.
So I have a different take than
that. Well, that isn't my take either. I'm just saying.
So my overall opinion is that I thoroughly enjoyed the movie. It's a slow burn.
It is a slow burn.
So it is the first, I would say, act and a half. So like you're getting through at least almost to 3/4 of the movie before things start happening. I mean, at the halfway point, he does, murder some people, and then it starts changing from there. but it is a slow burn. You have to understand that you're just going to follow this man around in his life. And I think the reason they do that is so that you fully understand like what he's going through and what he's doing in his life.
Do you follow this guy around? I don't think there's a scene in this movie without Joaquin Phoenix.
He's in every single scene, I think.
I'll go on record right now. I think that he'll definitely be nominated. He probably will win
the
Academy Award.
Yeah.
And not because of the movie and not because of his acting.
His acting is
because of what he transformed himself into, and then also just the amount of acting.
Yeah.
Because he's like in every scene, and not like there's no fluff scenes in this movie. It's just like it beats you down.
No, yeah, there really is no fluff scenes, and it's not happy.
No.
You know, there's no happy part of it, and even at the end, I guess you do have this like release of, okay, finally he's starting to like get out of himself and do something. But I did very much enjoy it because the first half was work. It's kind of work to get through that.
It's
but
definitely
afterwards,
very slow.
Afterwards, I thought it was phenomenal. But in the beginning, I was still intrigued because they're setting up, like, they're giving you information on how he is.
Right.
So I love the take of the laughing part of it.
Really?
I do, because I don't know if you're going to take the Joker and try to put him as an actual human being, right, and not a cartoon character or not a comic book character, and you're going to try to get him to be a human being, how do you play off that he's just going to laugh all the time?
Yeah.
And it not be just complete psychotic to where he can function every day. Like a complete psychotic that you would see the Joker as in a comic book cannot function in day-to-day life. It's just not going to happen. So if you're going to have a person function in day-to-day life, you can't just have him being this goofy laughing guy.
Right.
I think it's pretty interesting that they have it as what they call a condition, but really he was just had the shit beat out of him as a kid, and just doesn't act right because of that. And it's painful.
It's like
laugh.
It's like a derivative of Tourette's.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yes.
So I didn't like this aspect of it. Why I didn't care that much is because I completely understand that there's a million different takes on the Joker. And by them doing that, it doesn't ruin the character for me. It doesn't make me sit there and go like, that's not the Joker. No, it's fine. No. They can do this. This is in its own universe. And it doesn't bother me to do a different take on the Joker. You know, it makes sense. I get why they did it.
I think so.
I just wasn't the biggest fan of it, of that idea of it being like some kind of Tourette's, like he has a compulsion, he's got to do it from past trauma, which I guess I didn't really put two and two together on that until you just mentioned that. But yeah, you're right. Like,
he was told by his mother that he had a condition from the doctor, like that he was seen by a doctor and they said, you have this condition. And he believed his whole life that he had a condition, when in reality, once he goes to that mental hospital and finds the documents about his mother, he found out he was just abused terribly as a child, and that's what's given him.
See, I had a different thought on that. And this is one interesting aspect of the movie that we can probably discuss a little more later, but you don't know at all what's right and what's not right, or if any of it's even real.
Right.
And they established that later on. This is not something that Marley caught until we were talking about it in the car afterwards. It's very subtle. And she mentioned the love interest with the girl.
You don't know who's telling the truth.
Yeah.
Like between...
Well, Marley said, I didn't really understand or like the love interest he had with that girl. And I go, he didn't have it.
How did she not catch that?
I don't know. She didn't really catch it. But I could see why you could miss things like that. See, on the laughing thing, I kind of thought that it was a condition that he had since he was a child. And when he was chained to the radiator, they said, his mom said, oh, well, he always seemed so happy. He was always laughing. And instead of him being chained to the radiator, he was laughing because of his condition.
Okay, I didn't catch that.
That's how I thought of it.
But then there's the another part where he sits down when he ends up, again, spoilers, he ends up killing his mom in the hospital. When he sits down,
a crazy scene.
Yeah, he sits down there and he's staring at her and he said, "You always told me I had a condition." He's like, that the doctors looked at me and I had a problem.
I guess I didn't catch that. I thought he was referring to the fact that it wasn't a problem.
Right,
Like,
it wasn't.
She called it a problem, but he's realizing now
that it was because of the abuse as to why
Well,
he has
I
it.
thought of it in the aspect of he did have the condition. She's just the one that was always telling him that it was an issue, and now he's realized he's freed himself, and now he realizes it's not an issue, it's not a problem, it's just who he is.
And see, and I agree with you. That could absolutely be the take you get out of it.
Yeah.
This whole movie is like that because, again, the girlfriend part is not real. So
Maybe none of it's real.
but
Spoiler again, but towards the end, when he's in that mental institution, and it's the lady looks very similar.
Yeah.
If it's not the same person, I don't think it is, but the lady that's his psychiatrist is similar looking.
it's not the same
to
person,
the girl
but it is.
earlier, and I'm wondering, was he in the mental institution the
whole
entire
time.
time?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Oh man, that'd be cool.
I think honestly, there's no answer, right? They're not going to give you an answer. They
Right.
don't even try. But to me, that's what I like to believe is that none of it happened and he was in the mental institution the entire time. And that, to me, is more interesting because that's more Joker.
More Jokerish than it is the other way.
Than the
and
rest
I agree
of
with
the
you.
movie because, well, continue on with the rest of your take on it because I'll get into mine too.
So yeah, I liked the laughing part, me personally, but yeah, getting into him as a person. So I don't take it as watching a man like break down into insanity.
Okay.
You see him in the beginning, like in the beginning of the film, at his absolute lowest point.
Right.
Like
okay.
he's already like basically as low as he can get. He's been beaten up constantly on the street, like literally beaten up by kids, by adults. Nobody likes him. Everybody thinks he's weird. The people he works
He's
with
clearly got
set him up for
social anxiety and
he's
all
just
kinds of issues.
He's not happy at all. The only
But he's not violent.
He's
And
not
he didn't
violent.
really have violent impulses. It doesn't seem.
So when he becomes violent and kills the men on the subway, is when
which
you
isn't
start.
necessarily a violent impulse.
No, it's because they were literally beating the shit out of him,
Yeah, I mean that was kind of self-defense.
and they weren't stopping. So he did that. He killed them, and then after that point, from that point on in the movie, he laughs less and he starts to get more confident. He's talking to people more. He starts walking out into society and being himself. I feel like he starts getting out of the depression. Now he's still, I'm not taking this as he's all of a sudden become this normal man. No, he has not. He's getting much more violent because he's got the confidence to say like, I'm now going to be my own person. I don't have to listen to mom. I don't have to listen to these guys.
Well, and he
I'm going to
says-
take back like what I want.
he says in that movie, he says, "I killed those people, and I thought I would." He's like, I didn't feel anything. Basically, is what he says. I didn't feel anything. So I didn't really necessarily get the take that he's gaining confidence. More so that he's, yeah, I guess in a way, but I just kind of got it as more he realized that he has no remorse.
Yeah, he doesn't have any remorse,
do
but
whatever he
also
wants.
That's what he realized. He doesn't have to be scared of being outside or of his laughing. Like he doesn't have to do any of that anymore. I feel like he was stuck in this routine, and then as soon as he did that, he was like, it wasn't just the killing part. It was the part of seeing himself, even though nobody knew it was him, seeing himself as like the hero almost.
Yeah.
Because the rich people got killed and other people started clinging on to that and saying like, yeah, screw the rich people around here.
Right.
Like I'm sick of taking all their crap and us being poor. And he saw them being happy about it and like throwing it up and celebrating the fact that those guys died. And then he's like, yeah, it's like, that was me. I can do more of that.
Yeah. See, that was one point in the movie that I kind of thought they weren't really sure where they were going because he even says it several times. He goes, I have no agenda. I'm not leading a movement. I don't care about any of that stuff that's going on. But then like later in the movie, he like stands up and makes a speech like to those people, like he is leading a movement. So I'm like, pick a lane here. I didn't really understand that.
When did he give a speech?
I think it was at the end when he was in the television studio. He addresses the camera and he says something. He does like a monologue.
Oh yeah, right at the very end.
Yeah.
That's after all of it's happened.
Right
though.
before that, he says to Robert De Niro, he's like, I don't have
Well, he
anything to
did
do
that.
with that.
Well, he did that because they weren't going to let him on the show if he was a part of
Maybe
that
But
crowd.
I never got the feeling that he had any connection to that movement that was going on. It just was happening.
He didn't up until that point.
Okay.
Like leading up until that point, he had no connection to it whatsoever. And then Mark Maron walks in and he's like, we're not letting him in if he's got face paint like this. Like, you can't let him on the show. And he's like, no, I have no affiliation with those people.
Yeah.
And then he realized, I don't want to kill myself.
And that's one of the most shocking. I mean, it's coming.
Yeah.
But it's
once he sits down on the show.
Very disturbing.
Yeah.
Just watch. And a lot of this movie, like, honestly, it is profoundly disturbing.
It is. And that's what Amy did not like.
And you do not feel, and this is what the argument was beforehand, the political stuff was that, like, oh, they're trying to make him out like he's a good guy, like you can empathize with him. At almost no point in this movie can you empathize with him once he starts being violent. Before that, you can. You do empathize with him.
If you cut it down to him just being poor and being, having a social anxiety, and
being
whatnot,
abused and
like,
picked on, you can empathize with that.
If you only boil it down to that one point, then yeah, okay, you can empathize with that.
Right.
But the rest of his being and
once he starts getting violent, you do not empathize with that character. He does not come across as anything that you're rooting for in any way.
No.
For me, anyway.
No, I agree. I was not necessarily rooting for him. I was just, and that's the thing. Like, I'm not necessarily like a fan of what he's doing. I just wanted to see what comes next.
Yeah. I mean, and I wasn't expecting. I was expecting that they were going to make him a sympathetic villain.
To a point, yeah.
And they didn't, and I'm glad they didn't.
Yeah.
Personally. And, that's fine. But what else?
So I also love that. So Amy had brought it up about Thomas Wayne being this big jerk.
Yeah.
Thomas Wayne being Bruce Wayne's father. He was somewhat of a jerk. I think you're seeing him, though, through the eyes of
you're seeing
that
him
person.
Colored through a specific lens that you're supposed to be in.
So
you're supposed to be sitting there on his side.
Yes.
You are, in a way, supposed probably to empathize with him and his cause. And so everything that you see on the outside is being filtered through that lens on purpose.
On purpose, because it's his take of what's happening. And, I mean, what they don't tell you, like, it's canon that Thomas Wayne has started the Wayne Foundation. Bruce Wayne takes it over. Like, the whole Wayne Foundation is set around helping Gotham, bring it back up, feeding the poor, giving people jobs. Like, it's this big, huge operation that's going on in Gotham to help those underprivileged people throughout the town. Like, it's widely known that's the basis of the Waynes.
And that's some people argue that's the basis of Batman, is that there's like a residual guilt for like hoarding wealth going back to like the 1700s,
right?
And like objectifying people.
And there was an argument that I saw on Facebook with a lady that works for the Corps of Engineers that I know, and she had told her boyfriend that Batman's a shitty superhero because he doesn't help all of these people. Like, they're a terrible family because they don't help all these people. It's like, well, just because he's a billionaire,
and they do. That's not really established in canon.
What?
That they're not helping people.
No, I know.
Yeah.
She's just taking it as like she doesn't see Batman going around and giving money out. It's basically the point she was making. Nobody really does that. There's billionaires that are out right now that don't walk around the streets just handing money out to people.
It's interesting. There's different takes on Batman. Now, the idea behind all these different kinds of Jokers is really the same for Batman. There's a couple different Batman kind of iterations, and in some, his persona is just reckless playboy, not helping anybody. But in other ones, he's very philanthropic. So it's hard to
and beyond that, though, just because the person is that way, the Wayne Foundation still exists and does that thing.
Right.
It's separate to Bruce Wayne.
Right.
Like, Bruce Wayne isn't the foundation.
Right.
It's just like Bill and Martha Gates aren't
Melinda.
Or Melinda.
You got Martha
Did I say
brain.
Martha? I got Martha brain.
Who makes an appearance
Yes. So this is my next point.
Very shocking.
I liked.
Was not expecting this.
I
at all.
was not either. And Kevin Smith called it. He's like, he said in that podcast that you were listening to, he's like, in the trailer, he's like, you see Thomas and Martha walk out of the theater. I wonder if that's when they get killed. And I literally said, nah, no way. They're not doing that.
I never in a million years would I think they do a Batman origin in this Joker movie.
And
it feel like it's setting it up for a sequel, but I don't know.
I know it does. So that's why I was so glad that they tied in Bruce Wayne and the Waynes at all. And then you see Bruce Wayne as a kid and he talks to him. I loved that scene. Thought it was incredible. I love the fact that they show his parents get killed in the alleyway. They do the whole pearl necklace thing falling on the ground.
Yeah.
Bruce sees it all. What I also love is that there's always been a bunch of arguments on who killed Bruce Wayne's parents, right? Some people have always said, like, well, the Joker obviously killed them. It's actually Joe Chill. He kills him in the alley.
Maybe there's different origins.
So there's different origins of that. I believe it was Joe Chill, which was the guy in that movie, but it's all incited because of the Joker.
Right.
So in reality, I guess the Joker is the main cause of it, but the actual person who did it was a different man that just saw Thomas and Martha Wayne
right
at that point in time and thought he would take care of things.
Yeah.
And killed them in the alleyway. And I loved that. It ties it into the Batman world. It ties Batman directly to the movie. And we're going to get another one.
I think not, but maybe. I feel like
so.
So there's this Batman movie, The Batman,
Yes.
that I don't think can fit in with this.
No, I don't think so either.
But I think they totally could have two separate Batman franchises going.
They could have 6, and I'm going to watch all of them.
I'm not even saying for me. I think it would work to do like a Dark Knight franchise.
Yeah.
And then it's literally 3 movies of Batman fighting the Joker. The next one, they just do the Killing Joke.
Yeah.
Or they do one in the middle to set up the Gordons.
Yep.
And
that
then
would be
they
really
do the
good.
Killing Joke in the end. And that's in its own universe. And then they have the Batman movie out there doing its own thing. I think those can exist simultaneously, no problem.
Right.
I don't think they'll do that, but they did set this up for a future. I don't understand why you would do what you did at the end of this movie if you didn't have a plan for doing more.
Right.
Because you don't need to do that, any of it.
They don't need to.
It doesn't add to the movie necessarily in what they're trying to do.
I do think it's a little bit of fan service.
It is. I'm not saying it's not, but you don't need it in this movie. This movie is very much
its own thing.
You don't even really need it to be the Joker. It could have been anybody, anything else.
Right.
I mean, the Joker name is what makes it $1 billion.
Right. So at the end of the day, once it all ends and he does his thing, it's not this huge production, really. Like the ending, it isn't like some big chaotic thing. Even though there is a big crowd of people outside doing crazy things, the final part of him on the TV show with Robert De Niro, and him like murdering him on set and giving the whole monologue and talking to the camera. I personally loved that part because that is a classic Joker thing.
I like that, and I did think Robert De Niro was fantastic.
Yes.
I thought he was really good.
He was awesome.
All the supporting characters I thought were outstanding.
Yeah, all of them.
The girl, I can't remember her name. Is it Zoe or Zoe?
Zoe Beats?
Yeah, I thought she was Zazie Beats.
Zazie
something
Beats.
like that.
Yeah.
The lady who played the mom was really good. I thought all of them were really serviceable and everything. But I mean, it's their very far side notes to Joaquin Phoenix.
Right. They're I guess they are supporting characters in the story, but it's all Joaquin Phoenix.
Right.
Like it is literally, you could take those people out of the scene and you wouldn't take away from it a lot of the time.
Right.
But again, at the end, everything he did, I like it.
Yeah.
I don't really have much negative to say about it besides the beginning is slow. I thought it was slow in the beginning. I felt like it was slow. But it all built up to a point that I enjoyed.
Yeah. All right. So my take, like I said earlier, it's a profoundly disturbing movie.
Yes.
Unsettling, probably over the line of what I'm even really want to watch.
Really?
Yeah. It's disturbing at parts, but not all of it. Just there's parts, but they've set the character up so much in a way that when those things happen, it's disturbing.
Right.
The violence, and then the violence isn't really over the top, honestly, in this movie. That's not super violent movie, but the parts that are violent are horrifically violent.
Are very violent.
So I obviously thought Joaquin Phoenix was outstanding. Just to see what he did here was incredible. I've talked about, obviously I like the Wayne stuff and I like what they did with the movie, but overall I didn't like the movie that much. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it.
Right.
I was pretty blah about it, to be honest. I think that maybe it is what I expected it to be.
Okay.
I don't think I was super amped for it ahead of time.
I was.
But there were some things, I was very, very slow to get into. I never really felt like that moment of I always felt like I was conscious that the movie was going on and waiting for what was going to happen next, but in an impatient way because nothing was happening through a lot of it. I said I felt like it was trying really hard to be profound.
I think it was
and
just
you could tell, you know what I mean? It felt like a little derivative and a little over dramatic and really trying in the way that sometimes you see an art movie, an art house movie.
That's what I was going to say.
You're man, they're trying really hard to be
It is trying
artsy.
to be artsy.
Yeah.
It is trying to be artsy. That's what I do agree with you with that.
And I feel like it's trying, but it missteps a lot of that. It's just because it's trying too hard in a lot of ways.
You think so?
Yeah.
In what way? What way is trying too hard to be artsy?
Well, when you spend an hour and a half on one person, just watching them devolve, it's just, for the sake of seeing it, it's just trying too hard. You know what I mean? To get a point across. We get it. We get it. Let's get some more story here. So I thought, story-wise, it could be a little, it was trying really hard to be this is the next Taxi Driver. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like you can tell, and it's a little over the top. It's not enough to ruin the movie. Like I said, it was fine. I would never say this is something that's amazing. I probably would never really watch it again, to be honest, because I've kind of seen it.
Gosh,
I didn't really like the take on the Joker in general as a character. I didn't care for. I said I didn't really care for the laughing part, but I also didn't really care for the. He doesn't seem very competent. You know what I mean? He seems not very smart. He's a loser. He's insane. He goes insane. That doesn't really feel like the Joker to me that I like or that I know. Could you imagine this Joker pulling off a gigantic scheme? You know what I mean? You can't, because he just is he's just kind of like a insane school shooter type person.
I guess, but you could say that. I mean, if you watched anybody on their day-to-day life, you could say that they don't look very smart.
Right.
When they don't apply themselves in any way,
There's
shape,
lots
or form.
of takes on the Joker. Most of the takes that I like where he does come across smart, clever,
Yeah.
And I don't get how they're going to go from here to there. Now, that being said, this is not the Joker. He's not the Joker yet in this movie.
Yeah.
This isn't before the Joker. He's maybe not the Joker until the final part where he stands up on top of the car.
Right.
I mean, really. So
No, absolutely.
there's a long way to go here.
Yeah.
I just don't know how you get from there to there. But as I said earlier, you don't really need to, because we're all familiar with the fact that there's 100 different ideas on the Joker.
Yep.
And that doesn't really bug me too much. I can't really see this Joker ever mounting up to being any kind of a photo Batman.
Not at this point. No,
Not at this point. And I don't know how they're going to get to a point where that's believable with this character. I mean, this movie seemed like it was a vehicle to try and watch somebody devolve from a horrific past through horrible trauma, through mental illness, to psychotic break. That's what it was to me.
Yes.
And
I think
that's fine.
At some point, I mean, anybody can make a story to where he does become that Joker. Whether it's necessarily believable or not, it doesn't really matter when you're talking about comics. I mean, you read a comic book just like it's real when it's. I mean, most of the stories are completely unbelievable. So the hard part about this is trying to transfer that type of story into a real life human being.
Yeah.
It just is super hard to do. That's the only reason why I enjoyed the laughing part of it. Because at times, like I told Amy in the car, is like at times it was annoying.
Oh yeah.
When he was laughing, but I enjoyed it just because of the fact that we knew it was something he couldn't control.
Yeah.
So for the audience to think it was like somewhat annoying, you can understand why people around him are like, what in the hell is your problem, dude? Yeah. Like, why are you laughing at this right now? Like, that's the way I took it. Like, now I understand how people are around him. And I think that's the only way you can do that type of craziness in a story is to make it somewhat believable that he can't control it. Everything else, like building up, like the Joker's technically like a really good chemist.
Yeah.
In the comic books. How you would make this guy a really good chemist, just not gonna happen. Right. You know.
Now, could you see him getting a hold of some poison and poisoning a reservoir? Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
Because he's crazy. But some of the best takes on the Joker, which hopefully we get time to go into, for me, aren't necessarily like the super crazy. It's more like he's crazy in what his motivation is, but not necessarily in his execution. Where I feel like this Joker is both crazy in his motivation and execution. But overall, at the end of the day, I didn't really need it. It was fine. I mean, honestly, you could make this movie 20 minutes long and achieve the same thing.
You could.
Maybe less. You don't really need... You could do this as a 15-minute prelogue to a larger movie. Like, you don't need 2 hours of this. I don't feel like you do. So like, we get it. We get it.
You're on the same boat that I was in the beginning when I heard this movie was coming out. So we had talked about like the Joker coming out, and then there was another Joker origin story that they had talked about coming out as well, with like Jared Leto being involved with it again. That one obviously got scrapped, and they kept this one. This was like a year ago. Like exactly a year ago, right in the beginning of the podcast, really.
Right.
And we had talked about it, and I had originally said, right off the bat, I don't need this. Right. I don't need an origin story for the Joker. It's nothing that I've ever asked for. Like, I don't feel like this character needs that. That's how I was the whole time. And I once I found out Joaquin Phoenix was in it, I got a little more excited, but still I was like, I don't know how I feel about it. Then everything starts coming out. Like, I saw pictures of him. I saw the new design of how he did his makeup and whatnot.
Which I liked a lot.
Yeah, I was like, this seems intriguing now. Yeah. Like, I'm kind of on board. Still don't feel like I needed an origin story. But now that I've watched it, I'm completely fine with it. I enjoyed it. I liked the movie. I personally would tell people to go see it because I think it's good. I don't necessarily think you'd have to go to the theater to see it. It's something you could wait and watch it at home. But as long as no children or old people are around, because I feel like it will kill them.
Yeah. My thought on it, like I said, is if you could distill, in my mind, you could have distilled this movie down to 15 or 20 minutes. If you can distill this movie down to 15 or 20 minutes and still achieve the same thing, then why is it 2 hours, right? That's the question. And the answer to that is because the people that made it were trying to achieve something. And they were trying to achieve a certain artistic vision that is, I shouldn't say...
I think they did, though. I think they did achieve something.
They did. I'm just saying, like, I don't know that I need to sit around for an hour and watch somebody be crazy in the beginning of this movie. You know what I mean? Like,
but how many movies of that have you seen? You did see Taxi Driver, and that's what happens there.
Yeah. I'm not a huge fan of Taxi Driver, to be honest, but Yeah, it's fine. There's all different kinds of movies can exist. I'm not saying
Yeah.
that. It was fine. I was entertained watching it. I just wasn't blown away.
I think you just like to shit on everything I love.
I think when this movie was getting closer to coming, because I felt the exact same way as you at first. Then stuff started coming out about it, and I was starting to get really excited. And I knew what they were going to go with it, but you don't really know.
You don't know,
Especially with this movie, you just don't really know. And I feel like they probably could have done something a little less artsy, and it would have been more entertaining.
Yeah, and I feel like if they would have put him as a little bit more scheming,
Yeah.
like at home, like that's what I thought. There's a scene where you see him from behind, and it's
Yeah.
basically just to show off how skinny and weird Joaquin Phoenix looks without a shirt on, which he did lose a ton of weight about for this movie.
Yeah.
He's super skinny and weird. I thought that he was like making things, like making something to go
But
do.
then when you watch it, you
evilness.
realize there's really no purpose
other than to show him stretching a shoe, stretching a clown shoe.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's weird. And actually, Joaquin Phoenix was on ID10T podcast with Chris Hardwick.
Yeah.
He interviews him. It's like it's just over an hour long, or right at an hour long. Really quick interview, and it was really fun actually to listen to him because he's not very serious. It seems like Joaquin Phoenix is always serious.
Yeah,
in
I've seen him
everything
in
he
a
does.
couple talk shows. He was on Jimmy Fallon.
He's like really guarded.
Yeah,
it seems like
he seems kind of cool.
Yeah, but in this podcast, he was like hilarious, joking around all the time, and it was right in the middle of his press junket, like going from interview to interview. So Chris Hardwick went to his hotel room and just like interviewed him there, and he was super laid back, and he asked him like, what kind of questions is he getting? Like, what's the question that everyone's asking you about this movie and about your acting and whatnot? And he said, man, he's like, everybody keeps asking me about my diet. He's like, and losing weight. It's like, everybody's so worried about like how I lost weight for the movie and what did I eat and this and that. He's like, what does it matter? He's like, I'm not method or anything like that. He's like, they told me they wanted me skinny.
So I got skinny.
He's like, so I got skinny. And then he's like, and everybody wants to know if like how insane I got for this role. Like, I didn't. He's like, it's actually the most fun I've had on a movie set. It's like, I thought it was incredible.
I could see that. There were times when it was fun.
Yeah.
In a weird way.
I like him dancing around.
Me too. Big time. That was actually one of my favorite parts. And like I said, while this movie wasn't a big hit home run for me and it didn't necessarily hit home, I do think that he was outstanding in it.
Yeah.
And I do think he deserves an award for it.
So as soon as he got that gun from the guy he works with, he goes home and he's like dancing at night. His mom's in bed and he's dancing and he's trying to act. He's acting like he's at a party or something like that. And he goes up to a girl. He's dancing around. He's like, and he's talking to himself because he has nobody else to talk to. And he's talking to a girl, acting really cool. And he's like, yeah, I like you. He's like, but you know who I don't like? That guy. And he points with a gun, but then he shoots through the wall of his apartment because he doesn't know what he's doing with a gun. And he immediately drops it and then like cranks the TV up. And his mom starts yelling. And he's like, I'm watching a war movie. That's really funny.
Yeah.
I loved that part because he is like dancing around with this gun because he's like in love with it all of a sudden because he finally has something that he knows he's not supposed to.
Right.
And then he goes to the children's hospital.
He's very childlike.
He is. He's very simple. And he drops the gun, literally a loaded gun out on the floor at a children's hospital, gets fired from his job.
Yeah.
I'm like, what an idiot. Like, how do you do that?
No, I mean, I think maybe one of the issues, other than like, I feel like they were trying to be way more artsy than they needed to be, was the Joker take. And I feel like part of my problem with that is I think maybe the Joker's better without an origin, specifically because like now that I see that and I look at it and I go, okay, if this is the Joker origin, I'm like, I don't know that I wanted to know all that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I kind of like the idea that he's just some weird, mysterious, like almost supernatural being.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He is in a way.
And so now that you see that and you see it grounded in humanity it kind of takes away from the character a little bit for me.
I mean, you got to remember this is like the very beginning, so you have no idea what the story, where the story could go. I mean, maybe he does get affected by,
but you
in my world, like maybe he gets affected by some chemical and gets even weirder.
Yeah.
Or
but
something else happens
is
to him.
a person.
But he's very much a person.
And
which
you don't really ever feel like that in any other iteration.
The Killing Joke.
Yeah, because they do. And this is very, very, they took from that book big time.
Sure.
I mean,
like the troubled comedian.
As much as you could say, like, this movie was loosely based on that book.
Sure. And I thought so from the beginning because he's going to be a comedian. They say he's trying to be a comedian. And the only difference is, like, isn't it in The Killing Joke where, like, his family gets killed while he's out doing stand-up?
Yeah, something like that. I can't remember exactly, but...
And he comes back and everybody's, like, dead or something. And then he goes, like, crazy from that. This isn't necessarily that story, but... he is a comedian, and stemming from his type of comedy is where he goes insane.
Yeah.
Or like really jumps over the edge because they're making fun of him during his comedy. So he realizes the one guy I've idolized my entire life making fun of me.
Right.
Like, and then he feels empowered by the crowd.
Right.
And realizes I can stop this.
Yeah.
What a stroke of luck getting invited onto that show, huh?
If any of it's real. And that's the one aspect of the movie that I really did connect with and really enjoyed.
Yeah.
Was that aspect of, there's a part in this movie where everything that you've been seeing going on, you find out was just complete delusion. It didn't actually happen. And
which I think is a really neat take.
And there's a real question whether any of it happens. And that, to me, is the most interesting part of the movie. And they probably should have spent a little more time with that.
Maybe.
Because that is actually kind of gives me hope going forward that I will connect with this character more because, you could easily find out or not that none of it was real in the first place. You could have a whole nother origin of the Joker in the same series and then like do some crazy movie stuff to make it like, oh my God, I don't even know what's true.
Right.
And they kind of set that up.
They do, because I honestly don't know what's true between what his mom was talking about and what Thomas Wayne was talking about. You really don't.
And that's a big question in this movie. They go, okay, at the first, they make it seem like Thomas Wayne's terrible. Mm-hmm. And then later on, you come to find out, oh, Thomas Wayne's horrible and his mom was taken advantage of. And then later on, you find, oh, she's insane. And maybe Thomas Wayne doesn't really have anything to do with it. And then after that, they leave you with the burning question of maybe he did fake the adoption certificate.
Right.
Maybe his mom wasn't insane. And then after that, they make her seem even more insane. And then he kills her.
Yes.
So that is an interesting aspect.
That's what I'm wondering. Like, did Thomas Wayne set it up to make it look like she's insane to get rid of her so she's taken away?
I don't think so personally, but it seems like they're never going to answer that question.
Right. And you'll never know.
But it seems to me like it makes sense, and they kind of set it up that, the adoption papers were forged and everything.
Yeah.
But, you just don't know. And that's a good part of this movie, and I'm actually starting to like it more as we talk about this aspect of the movie. Because one thing I will say is, while I didn't leave the theater awestruck, I was very confused when I left the theater. So I was very confused.
What's true and what's not.
Well, just whether I liked it or not.
Okay.
Like, I was confused. Like, I don't know. I didn't know what to think or feel after I saw this movie.
Right.
And
I was
maybe
happy.
That's the good thing.
So I was actually like happy after I saw it, but I was at the point of like, I've got to, honestly, I wanted to see it again.
Yeah.
I wanted to see it again.
I don't know that I could sit through it again, to be honest.
Oh, yeah.
Not in a way like I thought it was bad. It's just like, it's a lot, man. It is heavy.
It's heavy.
It's work. It's almost like work getting through. You know, not necessarily in a bad way, but
I like that though. I like the doom and gloom stuff.
Yeah,
somewhat. As long as it doesn't.
You are the prowler.
I mean, that's me.
Yeah, I do like this idea though that maybe, and I really kind of think that none of it ever happened, and he was in an insane asylum the entire time.
Yeah, I never thought of that. that he was in the insane asylum the whole time. I just thought of it as like he asked about being there.
Because they never show him getting arrested or...
No, he asks about being...
They said he was there.
They did.
He was in an insane asylum, which he doesn't really seem to have any memory of.
He doesn't have any memory of it. And then he asks the guy at Arkham Asylum, basically, or hospital, whatever they call it. He asks the guy, like, what's it take to get into one of these places?
Yeah.
And he tells him, and he's like, I wonder if I'll ever come to this place. And then later on in the movie, after he murders everyone, he is in a cop car getting arrested, but then that gets slammed into and they break him out, and you don't see him get arrested after that, but he's then later in the insane asylum.
So it's possible maybe just the ending never happened and he did get arrested in that cop car.
Right.
And then the other stuff that happened after that happened in the insane asylum in his own mind.
Maybe.
And that's why he was all happy and dancing around at the end. But I personally, honestly, I really, really do believe strongly that none of it ever happened and none of it was even true. And that wasn't his mom, and that has nothing to do with Thomas Wayne, and there was nothing to do with anything. And he was in an insane asylum the entire time. That lady was his psychiatrist.
That seems really
He
neat
was watching that talk
that.
show on TV every day in the insane asylum or whatever.
Yeah.
And he had the whole entire mental break that happened in his own mind silently.
Yeah. That would be really neat.
So that's what I think anyway.
Yeah, I like it.
So we're at an hour.
We're at 57 minutes.
We can end here with our review, or we can talk a little bit more about our favorite Joker takes, or we can do it in a separate episode. What do you think?
I think we do a separate episode.
All right.
I think that is good for this one. We gave you our Joker review.
Yeah, and most importantly, we want to know what you guys think.
Absolutely.
So let us know how you thought of this movie, whether you enjoyed it as much as Jerry, or whether you were skeptical of it as much as I
Or if you want to shit on everything like Chris.
I don't think I shit on it.
If you want to be the Mark Bernardin of this episode.
I'd like to get their takes on it, though. For
yeah,
sure.
absolutely. You can comment on a YouTube video. You can comment on Facebook. You can comment directly on the podcast.
You can also check out patreon.com/snarfcomics, where you can sign up to be a patron of us and help support the show, anywhere from $1 a month up to infinity a month.
You could do infinity or like 10.
Yeah. Yeah. We have different levels. $5 level, you get extra podcasts. $10, you get some T-shirts and other goodies. And $25 and up, you get a monthly subscription box full of good stuff. So.
Yes, Bundle-O Snarf.
And if you are currently a patron, we are working diligently at putting together episodes. And we're not just like making them and then releasing them right away. We're trying to
we're compiling. It's
some significant content. So hang tight.
Coming at you.
Yeah. Check us out at youtube.com/snarfcomics and at snarfcomics on all the social meds.
Social meds.
Can I call it social meds? Is that a thing?
Yeah, I think you can.
Okay.
I think that's
doesn't
all right.
sound great.
I think you're trying to be a little too artsy.
Yeah. For Snarf Talk this week,
I'm Jerry.
I'm Chris.
See ya.
See ya.